Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. We're glad you're here. I'm Kevin McDonald, your host for this grand adventure, and I thank you for joining us. You see, our mission is to create a positive, personal connection to all things with courage and love. We invite terrific guests, interesting topics, and great conversation, all in a fun, entertaining way. And we always manage to learn something, too. So I hope you will stay right where you are for this episode of Positive Talk Radio. And welcome, everybody, to another episode of Positive Talk Radio. My name is Kevin McDonald. I get to be your host today. I'm so excited to be here. And we've got a great guest for you today who is all about empowering women. And so we're going to talk about that a great deal. She's got a book out, and we're going to talk about that as well. I'd like to welcome to the program Trish Steele. How are you today, young lady?
I am great, Kevin. It's a beautiful day here in California. The sun is out and the wind is blowing, and we're just getting all our air cleaned up out here.
Oh, that's awesome. What part of California are you in?
I'm in a town called Westlake Village. It's part of Ventura County, just 10 minutes from LA County.
Oh, very nice. Westwood Village. There's a shopping mall in Washington called that, but that's not the same. And but it's great. Have you been in California your whole life, or did you move there?
I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I've been here ever since. I've only had 2 years out of my whole 70 years lived in another state. One year in Hawaii and 1 year in Nevada.
Be fool my still.
Back to California, can't leave it.
Be still my foolish heart. You're not 70 years of age.
Have what, honey?
You're not 70 years of age. You look.
Yes, I am.
Oh no.
This is me. I'm ageless, fearless, and divinely connected.
There you are. That's
about my book. That's gonna come up.
Absolutely. And let's talk about you. You're on a mission to help women find their true calling. Why and what happened that you decided to get on a mission to help other women?
Well, Kevin, my life story is an amazing journey. And I really believe that I was born for such a time as this in 1951, which I wasn't planned by my parents. My mother got pregnant at 15, and my dad married her at 16. And here I come out into this world. And over the lifespan, 70 years, or even before 70 years, I could say maybe up to about 30 years, I realized that I was called to help women to develop their confidence and their beauty from the inside out.
Now and we talked about the fact that you've been on the planet for 70 years, and so you predate me by just a little bit, but so you grew up in the 60s. You grew up in the 70s. You went through the quote unquote women's liberation movement and the bra burning and all of that kind of stuff way back in the 60s and Gloria Steinem and all of that. Did that impact you a great deal then? Were you oblivious to it? Was it something that you paid a lot of attention to?
Well, let's go to the 60s. So the 60s.
I love the 60s.
There were so many different movements going on.
True.
You know, you had the civil rights movement. You had the Vietnam War, which everybody wanted to have peace and be able to get out of that whole chaos of their boyfriends or their husbands getting drafted in the army. And then you had the hippie movement, which is, peace, stop the war, all of this. And so basically, as a young girl experiencing at the age of 10 being abused and molested by my stepfather, that's when I decided I need to figure out a way to protect myself from being used and abused by men. And so when all this is happening, you're seeing all the other things that are happening in the world during the 60s, and people, all the violence and people, what's going on with everyone, it developed an inner strength in me to fight for myself, fight for me. I had to take in charge of my life. And it wasn't, and then the 70s, the same thing. But what I realized is, hey, nobody is going to look after me as well as I will look after myself. I had to learn to become victorious and stand up for what I believe that I can do and what I believe who I am. So I didn't really join any movements. I was kind of like this young girl that just had this creative mindset, which I share in the book. This creative mindset of becoming victorious. Okay, we can choose. We have a choice. Do we want to stay in the victim mode, or do we want to stay in a victorious mode? Because every great leader has a battle that they have to fight in order to become that leader.
That is so true. I wanted to ask you though. First of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through physical abuse and emotional abuse when you were a child. Was your mother aware of the abuse that was going on, or did she ever find out?
No, she didn't know the molestation was going on, and I had to tell her that. But she did see the emotional and the physical abuse going on. And because we were new husband's stepfather. I mean, he was our stepfather, and she was so in love, and she was young. She never finished school. See, my father died when I was 5 years old. I was his firstborn. I was his daddy's girl. So I knew that men could be good men. You see, and so but when my husband brought this, my mother brought this new husband into her life, it was 5 years of trauma. And my mother finally got a divorce, and it left a lot of scars. And I had to, you learn to deal with those scars and learn to heal those scars so I can move on.
Did you do that by yourself, or did you find a mentor perhaps, or a counselor, somebody to help you through?
It was both. It started out where I was around people. I started to surround myself around people that believe in me, that saw the gifts and talents and saw the uniqueness that I had. And then from there, I realized, okay, I started searching for God. And God came into my life, and he healed the deep wounds in my heart to give me a fresh new start. And I had to learn to forgive people. And forgiveness is a big thing nowadays that people need to learn. I mean, every great leader will tell you that, and I was just listening to some things about Oprah and what she believes in. And forgiveness is the number one thing. We've all been hurt somehow. We've all been let down. We've all been disappointed. We've all had some kind of trauma or something in our life where it puts a grudge in our heart that we have to learn to get that. That causes cancer, basically. It causes death, and you have to get it out in order to move on.
I believe that you need to let it go, which doesn't mean that you are condoning the behavior that existed, or that you are not going to hold that individual accountable. But what it
Right.
means is you're letting it go in your own heart, because at the end of the day, when you have darkness in your soul, darkness in your heart, it only hurts you. It doesn't hurt anybody else, right?
That's right. And it is so true, Kevin. I mean, there's so many people out there, especially now, that look what we've gone through in the past 2 years with the pandemic and COVID, and people have had financial loss. they've had loved ones lost, they've had, job loss, they've had, you know, just lost of who they are. And now is a good time to really think about forgiving, but not only that, changing our mindset to something that we can look forward to. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just really trying to inspire people to come and get in touch with me if they need counseling, mentorship, and be a part of the team that knows how to move on when things get tough and things get, become so devastating, especially what's been happening, and really move on. I mean, last year, Kevin, I had an amazing year in the midst of all this COVID and pandemic, and I lost friends. Believe me, I lost friends. But I had to um, I had to look at it in a different avenue. I said, "Oh my God, they got to go to heaven and not deal with all this chaos and mess here." They were ready. They were ready to go. And so I had to release them, and release them so that I can be free and move on and help others to move on.
So let's stop you right there. Somebody wants to get a hold of you. How do they get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? Well, they
Yeah.
go to trishsteele.com. And if you're dealing with domestic violence, go to my website that helps victims with domestic violence, abuse, mental abuse, any type of abuse at Safe Passage Heals. That's HEALS.org. And both of those websites, you're going to get so much information, and you'll be able to contact me and my staff so that we can help you. And we'll help you phone call, on Zoom, or see you in person.
And it's great. The pandemic did a lot of things, but the growth of Zoom has really helped because it can expand your reach to a national, or even international forum, so that you can talk to people from anywhere and get them the help they need. And Zoom works pretty well to do that. I really applaud that you are. I mean, come on, you're 70 years old. You could relax and be, sipping a margarita out front and watching the world go by, but you're actively taking a part and to make sure that this world changes. And I appreciate that. I think you're doing
Thank
awesome things.
you. Yeah, and that's the beauty about being the age I am today. And age is just a number, but
Correct.
thank God I have something to show for it. I mean, and that's the other thing I want to tell people. It's not how you start your life, it's how you finish it.
That's it.
Okay, it's how you finish it. Whatever journey you're taking, it's how did you finish that journey? That journey, did it bring you fulfillment? Did it bring you completion in your life? Were you able to fulfill your goals and your dreams? Some of them had the toughest time getting there, but did you finish it with a shout, or victorious, or with happiness? And all of us, there's a lot of people here that are still working on it, but they don't know how to work on it. And some people give up hope too easily. So I'm a very much person that's compassionate about, hey, let's get on a new journey so that you can finish this race that you're in, or this project that you're on, victoriously.
One of the things that we all need support. We all need somebody that we can count on. And a lot of times it doesn't work if it's a friend or a family, because they're too close to the situation, or they might know the other person that is being an abuser, and that sort of thing. So that's why it's important to have coaches and people that are not emotionally tied to what's going on with you, who can give you an outside perspective. And that's what you do, is you give people an outside perspective that you can help them through it. And that's really is important. Let's talk about your book, Discover the Mind of Steel. By the way, I love the title.
Thank you. Well, it just so happens, it's so divine that I happen to marry a man with the last name Steele, because my maiden name is Blanco.
Oh, Steele is much better.
Yeah,
Discover the mind of Blanco. That I don't know that would
yeah,
have the
Blanco.
same ring
No,
to it.
I'd have to change that title. No, it's just Discover the Mind of Steele. So my husband, Jim Steele, uh, we've been married 33 years. We've been together 35 years. So all of this book here that I have for, that you can get it on Amazon, this book, shares my journey, even in my marriage. Hey, my marriage wasn't a perfect marriage. It took a lot of work. And that's what makes it so powerful. Discover the Mind of Steel, having that last name, because it's like I took that name and it's become part of my DNA. And I
By the way,
mentioned,
hold on, just real quick. By the way, would you pick that book up one more time?
would I what?
Pick up the book one more time.
Pick up one more time. Sure.
Okay, I thought maybe that was causing a little background noise, but no, never mind. Forget it. Okay, but that book is now that book. How long has it been out now?
What was about the book?
How long has the book been
It came
published?
out on my 70th birthday, October 7th.
And how's it doing?
2021. But I didn't start promoting it until November, December. And then I realized the holidays came and Christmas came, and I was just too focused on family and the holidays. Okay. So now
Sure.
we're relaunching it, this month and promoting it again.
Awesome. Well, it is a friend of mine and I were talking. This friend happens to be female, and she was like, I can't believe she's like 40, so she's half your age, not half, but a little over. And she was like, it's hard for me to believe, but you've experienced all this. It's hard for me to believe that people could not, or women could not have their own checking account until the middle or late 70s. If you were considered a homemaker, which by the way is a really, really, really tough job, especially when you've got a couple of kids involved, and they were devalued in the
Right.
past. Women were, well, still, and it drives me crazy. Women still make less than a man for doing the exact same job, and all of those things have got to change. And are you working to help with that as well? I would imagine that you are.
Oh yes, Kevin. Majority of these women that come to me, they come from abusive relationships, very abusive, and they weren't entitled to any money or any friendships or anything, and to live their life. They were always given money to go to the grocery store and shop and get groceries and come straight home. They didn't have anything. They didn't own anything. They weren't allowed to own anything. Now there's a few that, there's different, because I get women from all walks of life, from the very successful, wealthy woman to the very, homeless woman. I mean, I have had extremes. Women come through my door, but majority of them, they're totally under the control of the man that doesn't allow them any freedom to anything.
I gotta ask you, what is it about that scenario? Because if that the women don't feel like they can escape, are they scared to try and escape an abusive relationship? Is that the motivating factor, or do they think the guy will change, or it won't be this bad next time, or what is their feeling about all of that and what they're going through?
Well, basically, majority of these women actually really fall in love with these men, and women love. I mean, men do too, but I'm just saying. But when women really love and they think, oh my God, Prince Charming just came into my life, and he's rescuing me, and he's going to take care of me, and we're going to have children. These are women that really are family women that really just want a man and a husband to love them and have children with, and start a family and so forth. And so what happens is that after that, after the honeymoon is over with, the men, being under that spirit of control, manipulation, and majority of these men that are abusive like this have been abused themselves.
That's true.
You see what I mean? They come from abusive background homes. They never got healed, Kevin. They've never got healed. And I have counseled men who have come from abusive backgrounds, crying out for how do I get rid of this? How do I control my emotions? How can I stop this bad habit I have, and so forth. They were raised in that environment. And you know what? Majority of the men in prison, and I visited the prisons to minister and talk about domestic violence to these men, 99% of them had all been beaten and abused by their parents. And
It
that's
is.
why, and they never got out of the cycle. It's a cycle, Kevin. Once you get in that cycle, you can't get out unless you get help and healing. You
I
can't do it
call
on your own. That's the other thing. You cannot do it on your own.
no,
It's
no. I,
impossible. I
I
tried
call
that. You
that
can't do it on your own.
I call that the 7-generation cycle,
Uh-huh.
which is some of this abuse and some of it's father abuses son, who turns into the father who abuses son, and they become abusers, and it can go
Right,
on until somebody breaks the cycle,
right,
and they only do that by going to someone like you and talking and getting the help that they need.
right. And then the other thing is, once these women come into my program, they're so insecure and so full of fear that the abuser is going to find them and they're going to be back in a worse trap, because some of these women have escaped before and then they went back because they were in fear of, how am I going to take care of myself? They're so insecure. They couldn't know, how am I going to make ends meet? How are we going to put food on the table for the kids and all that? And when they're in the shelter, they're teaching them skills, but the shelter for the first 30 days isolates them and gives them safety, because that's the first thing they're going to need. They need safety first, because every woman that leaves a relationship, there's a very strong spirit of anger that takes place in a man's life, because it really kills their ego, that oh my God, I lost control of this woman that I thought I had. And so basically they go on rage, and that's why you hear and see that some of these men, when they find the woman, they beat them to death, or they shoot them, they kill them.
The statistics are frightening
Oh,
on
they are.
how many women have been permanently injured or killed by a former lover that finds them, and
Right.
it really is. And so I can understand it being a very fearful situation for them, and I'm glad that there are people like you that are out there to help them.
Yes, and I've raised up a lot of women that have gone through my program that are now advocates, and some of them I've helped them start their own nonprofit and be like a specialty in certain areas.
So you are actually a nonprofit organization, correct?
That's correct.
What's the name of the nonprofit?
Give it a name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. What's the
yeah.
name of the nonprofit?
It's SAFE, SAFE, Passage, PASSAGE, Heals, HEALS.org.
SafePassageHeals.org.
SafePassageHeals.org. Yeah.
And if someone would like to contribute, that's why I wanted to get that out. If somebody would like to contribute to your organization, can they go to the website to do that? Do they need to call you directly? How does that
Yes.
work?
We have a donors page where they can donate any way they like. We get donations from brand new clothing to trust funds.
And
If
it
you
can
know an
be,
accountant, if there's any accountants out there, the accountants take charge of people's trust funds. Tell them to add safe passage hills to it.
oh, that's really good, because they recognize that this work is not only needed, but you're doing a good job. Now, I have to ask, because it's a nonprofit. Most of the money goes to the victims and stuff. It doesn't go to administration fees, correct?
Yes. So it's very competitive here in California. A lot of the funds and so forth, going out from grants to philanthropists, trust funds and foundations and everything. And most of those go like to the really big organizations, but with Safe Passage, it goes right to, I mean, it's like a mom and pop operation. It goes right to the women and children, and making sure that each one of them get through the whole program, and they get to that this whole program. I allow them for free to get themselves totally healed, get them to a way they can become self-sufficient, and get them into their own place to live. And I supply all the tools for them to get to that point in 1 year's time.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That is really, that's fast to go from running away from somebody and living in fear and not sure that you're going to be able to do anything, to be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah. And Kevin, I share that in my book, because I was engaged to a man, very successful man, who had total control out of my life. I was a very successful woman, but the way he spoke to me and everything, and talked me into just saying, why don't you come to work with me, give up your career, let's just travel, let's just do this, he just charmed me out of my whole put my career on my back burner. And all of a sudden, as we're traveling, doing things, the abuse started. It was just scary. And believe me, I had to run for my life. I had to run for my life and go hide out somewhere where you couldn't find me, so I could, move on. And it was like a movie, and rebuild my life all over again.
I'm not quite sure. Well, I am. For me, I'm quite sure I do not understand the mind of an abuser. It doesn't make any sense to me. So perhaps you can educate me, because to my mind, it's like, if you love somebody, you're never going to put your hand on them. You're never going to call them horrible names, or you're never going to do what I hear happens a lot, which is marriage rape and things like that are just terribly destructive. Can you educate me into the mind of an abuser? And I know that it may be generational, because it happened to them when they were. Do they actually think that what they're doing is normal?
No. And we all have gone through things in our life that have triggered something inside of us to bring out anger, insecurities, and violence. And that's kind of like the step, it doesn't matter what it is, but something, we've all been triggered with something. And most men would want to handle it by thinking, okay, I got control. And if you don't do it the way I do it, I'm going to knock you out, or do this or do that. You see what I mean? And it's like that's like their protection of not wanting to get hurt again.
Well,
and so that's what happens. And it's not okay. It's not okay. That's why everybody needs healing. We all have these trigger magnets. The people say, "Don't push my button." You know what I mean? Saying, "Don't push my button. Stop right there. You're pushing my button. You're starting to get me angry." You know what I mean? And
sure.
It's true, because we all have it. We all have that. We can only handle so much, and then all of a sudden, we let it out.
Yeah,
but something's in a pattern of it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Intellectually I get it, but emotionally I just don't understand it. because it's not. Perhaps it's not in my DNA. Now, keep in mind, understand that I was an athlete and I was a boxer, and so I've seen violence. I know violence, but I would never. I couldn't imagine,
I know.
regardless of what she did, to hit a woman. Even my ex wife that had an affair, and I wanted to go punch him, but I didn't do that either. But so I just don't get it. And the other thing that would like your help with is we talk about the abuse. We talk about the young ladies that are the victims, of the trauma and the sexual abuse and all that.
Oh yeah.
Why aren't we as a society talking about the abuser more?
Well, because the abuser is, for one thing, most of the abusers, they get caught and then they have an attorney, and the attorneys are not going to let them say one word because they can hold against them. You see what I mean? The attorneys get them into counseling right away, probably, so they know how to look like the good guy when they go to court.
Which is
Yeah,
the,
people don't talk. I know why, because it's happened so much. It's like
it's an
they
epidemic.
have to help themselves. They know they can't. They come to realization they have to learn to help themselves. So they have nothing to say. They doesn't matter what they say. It's not gonna. It's no. People aren't gonna believe it. They got to go and make their own change. And once they make their change and people see that they've changed, then they'll listen. Then they'll talk about it. But they're not gonna, because it's impossible. They know that if they start saying something, it's all going to be worthless words that have no action behind it.
So I implore you, my audience, if you are a man and you have destructive tendencies of hurting a woman, beating on or controlling them in any manner or form, please go get help. Go find somebody that can
Yes,
understand why you're doing what you're doing, because clearly you don't. And it would be very helpful if somebody could help you understand why that's destructive, why that's bad, and think generationally. You're affecting, if your kids see this
yes,
when they're at home and you're abusing, then that kid is going to grow up and he's going to become an abuser.
right.
And that's just, so get help. There's lots of people that can go and help you, and Trish is
There
one of
is.
them.
There's a lot of people to help them.
And
There
but
is.
but
They have
it's,
to make the step, and they have to be genuine about it. You understand? Some
oh
people,
sure.
some people have a court order to go see a counselor.
Oh,
A court
sure,
order.
that's going to do a
That
lot of good.
that's forcing them to do it. See, you can go on a court order, finish your 6, 7, 8 sections, and then you're back on the street again.
Doing the same thing to,
Yes.
and I was talking with a gal the other day who's also an advocate like you, and she was saying that the gal that was in the relationship with her abuser after her ended up coming to her for counseling because he did the same thing to her that he had done to the previous lady. So
Yes.
it is a, unless it stops, it becomes a never ending cycle of abuse.
Cycle. I told you, it's a cycle. It's
And
a
it's
cycle. Well,
it's
you
crazy.
know what, Kevin? Let's talk about something more positive. We got it out. You got the message across. I love it. I love Kevin. Kevin, I love what you said. The men need to hear that. And it's true. They need to hear that. And the woman, there's abusive women out there too. It's for everybody that's walking in that spirit. They got to get healing. And and talking about healing, Kevin, I started a new DBA, I mean doing business as,
Right.
called Time to Heal. TIME, the number two, heal, HEALL, timetoheal.org. Okay, it's another nonprofit, timetoheal.org. And let me tell you something. That is a group of counselors, and it's all about, it doesn't matter what trauma, what incidents you've gone through. And if you're suffering depression, anger, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, whatever you're suffering from, time to heal is now. This whole world needs time to heal.
Boy, you
Look
could
at
say
our
that
world
again.
today, what's going on. It needs time to heal.
And that's absolutely right. That's honestly, and I want to thank you, Trish, because you're right. We need to take this into a much more positive direction, because we can make changes within our country, our society, if we will just work together and do it in a positive way. And if you
That's right.
really are interested in being in working together with other folks, some of this stuff just naturally goes away if you're operating from the position of love and not fear. So if you
That's
can get
right.
out of the fear and into a higher vibration of love and caring for people, then we can change how this all works. Do you agree with that?
I agree, Kevin. You're right. That's why I say in my book, in my little down part here, saying that becoming ageless, fearless, and divinely connected. See, that's my life. My life has been like that. I've learned to take care of myself. That's why I look ageless, because I took the time to me time. It's called me time. I didn't
You
have a
need
bunch of
that.
doctors. I didn't have plastic surgery, a bunch of doctors. I didn't have Botox. I didn't do any of that. It was a lifestyle. Kevin, people have an opportunity to live a lifestyle of their dreams if they would just get rid of their fears, their insecurities, their anxiety, all the things that they suffer from, Kevin. We have the greatest gift of all. God has given us the gift of life. Choose who you want to become or who you are. Find out what your gifts are inside of you. And that's what I'm good at. I kind of draw things out of people and find out what the goods are underneath them, underneath all of that insecurities and all of that, depression or whatever they're going through, unworthiness. I can dig out what the gifts are. Every one of us have been born with a gift. Doesn't mean if you can't sing or dance or act or be an athlete that you don't have gifts. Yes, we all have a gift. We just have to find out what that gift is. And just the gift of compassion is a beautiful gift. You see what I mean?
Yep.
It doesn't take a this courageous or stardom, talent. No, we all have something special about us. And that's what I had to find out about myself, because when I lost my dad, I lost my hearing. I was in a speech impaired school. I was ridiculed. I was bullied. I mean, I went through a lot of stuff, and it seemed like the whole world was caving down on me, because I felt like that God punished me and I wasn't good enough to be anything. But when I found out that I had gifts inside of me, like my grandmother did spoke special words over me, and my teachers, they found something really special about me and my teachers that I went to school with. And I ended up being, really good at arts and fashion and all these things. And they were like my mentors, helping me. And this little girl living in this little bubble that felt, isolated, but my teachers were my mentors. And this is the beautiful thing, that we all have an opportunity, to really, I can help find the treasures in each person. I'm very good at that. I love doing it. And I'm very good at helping them put their vision board together so they can visualize daily, seeing themselves moving forward to their dreams, to their calling, to their goals, to their happiness.
Absolutely. Now you glossed over it, so because there's somebody going, wait, what? What do you mean she lost her hearing? Explain that. What happened to you?
So when I was 5 years old, I had a very high fever, and my mother rushed me to the hospital, my mother and dad. And the reason why it seemed very dramatic, having a high fever doesn't sound like something dramatic to anybody, but it was then in the 50s because rheumatic fever was going on. It was like a contagious thing. My aunt got rheumatic fever and she ended up with brain damage.
Oh my.
So that was my mom's sister. So when I got a very high fever, she panicked, because, oh no, not my daughter now, because her younger sister got it. And so they rushed me and the doctors got it under control. And what was interesting is they said, okay, she's going to be fine. She seems fine. But they didn't check my hearing. They just checked me to make sure that, I didn't seem dysfunctional or I had any mental, damage or mental illness or anything. And so I didn't know I had a hearing loss until I went back to school. That was like around June when this happened. And then I lost my father on July 4th. And then that was very traumatic for me. And so I wasn't myself anymore. I really was like a trauma of losing my dad. And I was there when it happened. He died, he drowned in a lake and he knew how to swim. So it was very mysterious the way it happened. And then when I went back to school, I went through like a depression maybe as a young girl at 5 because
Sure.
And then I went back to school and the teachers would say, Patty, my name was Patty then because my name was Patricia Blanco when I was born. And Patricia Blanco. And so what happened is she called my mother to the office and said, you know what, you need to have your daughter's hearing checked. She's not hearing or comprehending or, understanding me. And so my mom did. She took me to a hearing specialist and they said, from your high fever, you lost 70% of your hearing.
Oh my.
So I couldn't hear the correct pronunciations of every word that we were learning in school. And so they said, you know what? We want to send your daughter to a special school called Mary Bennett School. It was one of the first hearing impaired schools. And in those days, in the 50s, they didn't call it hearing impaired. They called it deaf and dumb schools.
Yes, they did.
Deaf and dumb. Yeah. And they taught you sign language at that time. Yep. Well, I was one of the first students that they taught lip reading. There was like 10 of us. We were like the guinea pigs that were learning to read lips instead of doing sign language. So I don't even know sign language, but so I ended up with a speech impairment, but I ended up with a healing miracle. Jesus healed my ears. And that's another story in itself. Oh my gosh. I went to a healing service and I got healed.
That was
book. In my 30s.
That's the second book.
That's the book?
No. That's your next book.
That's the book. That's the book. That's in the book.
Oh, that's in the book. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's in the book. It's in the book.
By the way, we're talking with Patricia. I mean Trish Steele, and go to Trish Steele's website, which is trishsteele.com. Get the book Discover the Mind of Steel, and the invincible journey of decades, because you've lived 70 decades and or 70. That makes you 700 years old. You look really good for 700. But you've done quite a little bit, and it's people that have risen above their the catastrophes in life. Those are the ones that really are special people, and you are one of them.
Thank you.
That would be so hard, and I'm so sorry that you lost your dad. I assume on 4th of July you were at some sort of a picnic and a celebration for obviously Independence Day, and he went in the water and never came out.
I know. Well, you know what? It's amazing because everybody has lost someone in their life.
Everybody's
that really made an impact. And that's why I'm like sharing everything about my 70 years. There's nothing I have not experienced. I can relate to so many people.
Well, then that's why you're doing what you're doing, and that's why you are who you are. And she works with, just so in case you're just joining us, Trish Steele works with women who have been battered, have been abused, that have left their situation and are looking for support and guidance and help getting back on their feet. And she's got a nonprofit that does that, which is incredible work. You must be proud of yourself when you go home at night.
Yes. You know what's beautiful, Kevin, is that I have two daughters. They're adults now. One is 44 and the other one's 28. My 44 was from my first marriage, and my 28 is from my marriage now. And now we all live together in a big house here. And it's so nice that I get to watch my daughters make choices in their life, and see them, making some good, uh, move choices and movements, and then I'm living in a very wonderful community. I surround myself around positive people, and that's very important. And that's what one of the things, that's why I say I love the name of your radio station, Positive Radio, because it's one of the keys. It's one of the keys to happiness. You got to surround yourself around positive people, and take on some of those positive words and positive um, uh, learnings, and speaking, and everything. Um, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed, Kevin. I'm blessed that I can look back and say, I did it.
You
I
did it
did it.
well. But you got lots to do yet. You're a young woman. You got at least another 3 or 4 decades that you can make a difference in people's
I
lives.
know. I keep saying, I think I want to retire. And
That's not in you. I don't think that you can. I think when you see somebody that needs your help, you're going to run to them, and you're going to help them. I don't think it's in your DNA to quit at this point. Because if it was, you'd have
you
quit a
may be
long time
right.
ago. Yeah. So so I appreciate you. And is there anything that you would like to add and tell our audience before we go?
Yes. I just want to let people know that God loves you. And everybody's now looking like to God for answers, and some people are mad at God, and some people are like they can't be a God, and some people are like saying, well, God, why, how could I, what's wrong with me, and hey, He created you for such a time as this. And even though we are in this world at this time in this season, but this season is a time for you to have a victory. There is a victory that's going to come out of this if you are willing to give up the past and embrace the new. There's newness that's coming. The newness is coming. And I want to encourage you to be open to something new. Just get rid of the past, forgive the past, and move forward.
I could not have said that any better myself, young lady. That's why we do this at Positive Talk Radio. We want to
That's
help
right.
promote people like you that are inherently positive, which doesn't mean, by the way, that everything in your life has been cupcakes and rainbows. It's
That's
how you
right.
chose to interpret them and to deal with them, and you kept moving forward. You lost your dad when you were 5. There are people that are in that same boat that are your age now, and they're still in grief for
That's
what
right.
happened when they were 5, and that is such a waste, because I can tell you your father would be saying he's in your corner as your biggest cheerleader, because he wanted you to live your life as
Mhm.
best you could, and you have done that.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
You've done really well. Go to trishsteele.com. Get the book, Discover the Mind of Steel. If you've got an issue, if you need coaching, if you need some help, she is more than willing and able She's got a nonprofit company, and she can help you out. You were going to say something, my dear, before we go.
No, I just want them to really understand that the tools are there for them. There's nothing impossible. There's nothing impossible. It may seem impossible. No, you're not an impossible case. There's nothing impossible for the Mind of Steel. Read the book. Amazon. Amazon's got it listed. Read the book. Nothing impossible for Steel. Take on the Mind of Steel.
Yep, all you got to do is Google Trish Steele, and the whole thing comes up. So
yes.
The website and everything else. So, Trish, thank you for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me, Kevin, and keep the positive flow going.
Yes, ma'am. You stay right where you are. I'll be right back. Thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of kmmedia.pro. Please visit our website, oddly enough, named kmmedia.pro, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to each other, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.